So the first thing that you realize about how life begins at 30 is because at 30, you stop caring about pointless opinions. Now, what do I mean about pointless opinions? What am I saying here? Pointless opinions are really anything that doesn't contribute to your happiness. Now, you might think, well, what about things that make you sad that are really valuable opinions, but they might make you upset? Here's the funny thing. Sometimes you think that what's true is what's most important. However, when you turn 30, you begin to flirt with the idea that it's what's valuable to you that's important. What is helpful to you is what's important. That is almost more important sometimes than what is true. And so you can live your life listening to everyone's opinion, right? They might say, hey, you're ugly. And the reality is, you might be ugly. You might be a really bad looking person. But if that just hurts your self-esteem, makes it difficult for you to make friends or talk to people or sell your product or start your business or whatever it is, bring your ugly self to the gym, right? Any of these things, then why listen to it? Those opinions are useless to you. Opinions that are helpful to you are way more important. And when you become 30 years old plus, you begin to realize that is the way you want to live. That's the way you decide to live. And that's the only way that you live. You begin to realize only the opinions that are helpful to me are the ones I will take on board. And that's something you can't really do when you're younger. You have a really hard time doing it when you're younger because when you're first born and you're a little kid and you go to school and you make friends, the only thing you have under your belt in terms of experience is the fact that you know people. You haven't really done anything. So those people that you know, if the opinions that they offer you hurt your feelings, then you begin to have lower self-esteem. These are the opinions that start to matter to you, is just what other people think, is because that's all you have in your life is what other people think. You haven't had enough time and experience to really accomplish anything for yourself to build up your own self-esteem. And so your self-esteem comes from others, right? And so your life really begins to start when you start to understand that only opinions that are helpful to you that, are not pointless. Opinions that you enjoy hearing, really. And by the way, enjoy hearing doesn't mean that they're always nice. Sometimes you might enjoy critical feedback. That can be really helpful. But the point is, if you're just listening to other people's opinions and they're bringing you in a direction that you don't want to go, then of course you don't need to listen to them. But you only realize this truth when you become 30, okay? Now, the next point about how life begins at 30 is the money you make, you begin to understand how to actually use it. When you're in your 20s, you might just want to, again, lean further into 20s or younger, by the way. You want to lean further into the fact that other people have opinions of you, and so you do things for other people's sake, right? And I don't mean being altruistic. Like when I say doing things for other people's sake, it's not necessarily altruism. I mean like you do it so that people like you. You buy the clothes that people like. You buy the, let's say if you can afford it, you buy the car that other people like. You don't even necessarily care about it, right? I mean, I know I don't care about cars, and I know that when I was, maybe 20 years old, I would have bought, if I could have, I would have bought a car so that other people were like, wow, cool car, man. What a waste of time. But when you get older, you realize how to spend your money. Do you want to invest it in your own business? Do you want to invest it in making things that you just really hate doing a little bit easier, right? Do you really hate cleaning your house or your apartment? Do you want to spend some of your money on a maid service? Because maybe that's a good idea. On a cleaner coming in once or twice a week or once every other week. You begin to realize that, okay, here are the things that matter to me. Here's where I should put my money. You begin to realize that money, all that is just stored time. Think about anything you spend money on, right? And I don't want to go on too far of a digression. But think about anything you spend your money on a service, on a product. That's just people put their time into doing something for you, and then you purchase it with money. When you get to about 30 years old, you realize that that's what money is, and so you begin to spend that on things that really, really matter. Because otherwise, what are you doing? You're wasting your time to get money, right? You might have a job or whatever. You're wasting your time to get money, and then spending on stuff that you don't even care about. Well, life really begins when you understand that it's only worth spending your money on things that actually matter to you. And so you begin to decide how spending money makes sense. Now, the next part of becoming 30 and how your life begins at this time of your life is realizing that your confidence no longer comes from just, having a big ego. It comes from your experience. When you can look in the mirror and be like, look, I've lost my job once, I've lost my job twice, but both of those times I got my job back. I got another job that was able to help me make money. That's one experience, or that's one example, right? Another example is, yep, I was broken up with. Someone dumped you. But you knew that afterwards you were happy. You could be happy again. Just because you went through a breakup didn't mean that you were forever upset, right? You bounce back. Now you become a little bit more confident, right? So let's say you need to break up with someone. Now you're in your 30s and you need to break up with someone. It's just not working for you. It could be a romantic relationship. It could be a friendship, a personal relationship, whatever it is. You want to, walk the other direction. You can now do it with this sense of self-confidence, knowing that, look, This will be hard, it will be difficult, but I will be happy again. Not because your ego's like, yeah, I'm the best. Everyone knows I'm the absolute best in the world. So like, who cares if I break up or get broken up with? Like, I'm just the best. I have this false sense of confidence. Now it's, I know that I was happy once I suffered. I was happy once. After I suffered, I was happy again, is what I should say. I was happy again. And so now you can walk in and approach suffering recognizing that you will be happy again. So now you have this experience. And so you at 30 years old has a real sense of self-confidence that you at 20 or 19, 18, 17 didn't have, right? And so as you live a little bit more, you can now approach new opportunities with a self-confidence that is real and emanates from experience, not just from this inflated ego. The next thing you realize at 30 years old and how your life begins to really change is that good relationships, really valuable relationships in your life, are attracted intentionally. It's very rare that you meet a friend from, let's say you've had from high school or even further back, right? Let's say grade school, in some cases kindergarten, right? It's just so rare. The reason why is because all those relationships are accidental. And that's not saying that there aren't good people. It's just saying that you didn't take the steps to develop that relationship. It was environment that caused that relationship. But then at 30 years old, your life really begins to take off because most of the people that weren't intentional relationships begin to fade away. And this seems sad at first until you realize, wow, I'm no longer relationship hoarding. I'm no longer just keeping every single relationship I can to get this weird sense of gratification or because I feel like I'm going to be lonely. The only relationships you have, at least increasingly so, the relationships that you have are the ones that you really intentionally cultivate. And so what does that mean is that, the vast majority of your relationships are the ones actually inherently of value. It's not just the ones that you happen to fall into and happen to stick with. It's the ones that you intentionally water, and so that plant intentionally grows. And so everyone that you have around you really now does care about you, does have your best interest, and your relationships are deep, meaningful, and rich. And this pays you back so much. And this is why your life really begins, one of the reasons why your life really begins to take off at 30 years old. Now, the next piece is that at 30 years old, because you've had this experience, because you've had these relationships, you know how money works, all these things, you now begin to understand in your mind what truly matters to you, right? When I was younger, I did think I wanted to become this multi-trillionaire entrepreneur. And I think that was probably because, again, I wanted some attention of some kind, some love of some kind, some admiration of some kind, a mixture of all these things. But as I got older, I met people that gave me all that I needed and then some. And so my need to now just make endless amounts of money disappeared. Of course, money is still a very integral part of my life. It's very important to take care of people that I love, including myself. But my goals and what really makes me happy has shifted. It's not what it used to be. And the same thing happens to most people that I know at 30 years old. They begin to understand, okay, it's not that they're giving up on dreams and goals and stuff like that. A lot of the times it's that I had a misguided sense of what would bring me happiness and gratification and this feeling of validity, right? I am a valid person, etc., etc. And this is why your life begins to, it really starts at this point, is because now you can wash away all these fake notions of what will make you happy. And you're only really left with those that truly move you towards a sense of just beyond satisfaction, of euphoria, of knowing, listen, I need the right people around me, I need a couple activities that I really love doing, and I need to give more, or as much, or if not more, love than I receive, right? These sorts of things. And this isn't the same for everybody, but the point is, you begin to understand what really makes you happy, and so now your motivation to pursue things at 30 years old is a whole other level because they're really deep-seated, from a good place. It's not so much insecurity, it's not so much peer pressure, or just trying to fit in with the crowd, it's none of that. Or at least it's less of that, right? And so your life really begins at 30 because of these things. And the last one is that in the absence of all these things that I just mentioned, you now have the freedom to pursue whatever it is you want. There's so much pressure approaching 30 of, okay, well, are you going to be in this place in your life? Are you going to have kids? Are you going to be married? Are you going to do this and do that? You're going to have a house, have a car, all these things. But then you actually hit 30, and it seems like so much of the societal pressure shifts away from you and onto the people who are about to turn 30. And so, and by the way, this might not even matter to you. The societal pressure might not even matter. You might be one of the lucky few who really don't care what people think, right? You might be one of the lucky few, as opposed to the vast majority of people who really would like to seem as if they don't care, but of course they do care, right? But now you have the freedom to pursue what you want, because once you pass that 30-year-old mark, again, people are less concerned with what you're doing, and the focus turns on to the people who are about to turn 30. And so that coupled with all the experience you have and having washed away all the nonsense of needing to fit in with everybody, you understand what money means, all these things. Now, you're in this place where you're free to pursue what it is that you want. And what a great feeling. What a great feeling it is. And so if you're about to turn 30, or you're a little bit younger than 30, understand that your life really will begin at 30. But if you've understood some of these things that I've said here today, then the chances are that you're well ahead of 99% of people. So I leave you with that, and I remind you that life really does begin at 30.